Good day everyone, especially to you Ma'am Charisse. We are assigned to talk and discuss to all of you the Middle Eastern literature.
Middle Eastern literatures vigorously promotes the academic study of all Middle Eastern literatures. Work on literature composed in, for example, Persian, Turkish, post-biblical and modern Hebrew, Berber, Kurdish or Urdu language is welcome. Middle Eastern literatures addresses questions of study and interpretations of the literatures of the pre-modern Middle East. It encourages interpretation of the literatures, either one or several of the regional literatures, and studies of a cross-multilinguistic nature will be of particular interest. Characteristics of Middle Eastern literature: stereotypical Islamic values, folklore, importance of truth and generosity, respect of elders, authority and prophets, rewards of perseverance.
The Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam is a poem of high divine and spiritual meaning. The beauty and simplicity of this poem is so immaculate that people of all faiths and those who have no faith at all can seek divine solace in it. Omar has used popular metaphors in his passionate praise of wine and love. They are mere symbols of Sufism, where wine is the joy of spirit and the love is immense devotion to God. Omar has presented the nectar of divine ecstasy as a delightful alternative that leads to human enlightenment and eradicates human woe permanently. He has pictured the ordinary joys of life, for the worldly men are able to compare the mundane pleasures with the superior joys of spiritual life. The literal meaning of the translated verses is completely absurd, but the vast inner meanings are like a golden treasure house. Herein, what is the main message of the Rubaiyat poems? Fitzgerald's translation preserves the original poem's AABA rhyme scheme, a traditional Middle Eastern rhyme scheme that is very unusual in Western poetry. The poem depicts a simple man who finds solace by escaping into material pleasures and treats the universal and ageless themes of doubt, fear, and regret. Here's the poem, Quatrain 1. Wake! For the sun who scattered into flight the stars before him from the field of night, drives night along with them from heaven and strikes the Sultan's turret with a shaft of light. So in Quatrain 1, in the first quatrain, the speaker describes the morning of a new day. Urging the reader to wake, the rising sun scatters the stars and floods the castle of the Sultan, a ruler in a Muslim country. Quatrain 2. Before the phantom of false morning died, method a voice within the tavern cried, when all the temple is prepared within, why nods the drowsy worshipper outside? In Quatrain 2, in the early false morning, the speaker hears a voice from the tavern. The voice asks why a tired worshipper remains outside when the temple is prepared within the tavern. Quatrain 3. And as the cock crowed, those who stood before the tavern shouted, "Open then the door! You know how little while we have to stay, and once departed may return no more." In Quatrain 3, a group of people standing outside the tavern call for someone to open the door. They can only stay for a little while and can't return once they leave. The entire poem moves from the morning to evening and from one year's spring to the next. The false morning in Quatrain 2 refers to the false dawn or zodiacal light. In Eastern countries, this light emerges from the night sky about an hour before true dawn. Since Islam requires Muslims to pray the first of their 5 daily prayers at dawn, the timing of the sunrise is significant to their faith. The voice in the tavern imitates the Muslim call to prayer. The worshipper is called to drink in the tavern, not to pray in the temple. The consumption of alcohol is prohibited to a devout Muslim. The poem presents drinking as a source of religious transcendence as well as pleasure. The tavern becomes a place of worship and community, just as a temple might be to a religious observer. In the tavern, a believer is blessed with a divine presence, entering a mystical state similar to intoxication from alcohol. The people clamoring at the tavern door in Quatrain 3 call attention to the temporary nature of life. A frequent topic in the poem, their time in the tavern, like their time on earth, is limited. Quatrain 12. A book of verses underneath the bow. A jug of wine, a loaf of bread and dough. Beside me singing in the wilderness. Oh, wilderness were paradise enow. In Quatrain 12, this is addressing a companion. The speaker describes his contentment. They are in the wilderness with wine, bread, and book of poems. The speaker's companion is singing. Wilderness seems like paradise to the speaker. In addition, in Quatrain 12, the speaker talks to his companion and possible lover, using though as both a reverent and intimate form of address. They share a pastoral scene removed from earthly concerns. The speaker's simple desires for wine, food, and poetry and song are met. To him, this atmosphere is paradise, an earthly paradise as opposed to the blissful afterlife promised believers by Christian and Islamic religious traditions. Quatrain 13. Some for the glories of this world, and some sigh for the prophet's paradise to come. Ah, take the cash, and let the credit go, nor heed the rumble of a distant drum. In Quatrain 13, some people love the present world. The speaker says, others long for the eternal paradise promised by the prophet. The speaker tells the reader to take the cash and let the credit go, and to ignore the beating of drum in the distance. Quatrain 14. Look to the blowing rose about us. Lo, laughing, she says, into the world I blow at once the silken tassel of my purse tear and its treasure on the garden throw. In Quatrain 14, the speaker points out how the rose blows through the world laughing. She tears the tassel of her purse and throws its treasure onto the garden. Quatrain 15. And those who husbanded the golden grain, and those who flung it to the winds like rain, alike to no such orient earth are turned. Us, buried once, men want dug up again. In Quatrain 15, both those who grow grain and those who fling grain to the winds will turn to dust, not to the orient or golden. Earthmen want to dig up again. After praising his earthly vision of paradise in Quatrain 12, the poet describes the perils of imagining a future that may never come to pass. The prophet's paradise refers to the afterlife in the Islamic theology, where worthy souls are rewarded with eternity in heaven. The prophet referred to is Muhammad, 570 to 632 CE, who is credited with the establishment of the religion of Islam by reciting the content of the Quran to ascribe over the course of several weeks so that it could be recorded word for word in Arabic. The word Quran means recite in Arabic. Hence, the Quran must be read aloud in Arabic as a sacred text. When it has been translated into another language, such as English, it is called the Quran, which may be studied and analyzed as a secular study. Muhammad is held to be the last and therefore ultimate prophet of God. But he himself is not to be worshipped by the faithful. He himself mandated that no imagine ever be made of him, and he can't be represented in any work of Islamic art. Persian painters could be depict his body, but his face would be covered by a veil or a flame. Other Islamic artists were forbidden to depict any living thing in their art. So instead, they produced geometric designs. Religious practice, the speaker argues, only distracts people from enjoying the world around them. He urges his reader or companion to ignore the drum. Possibly, a drum beating outside a palace, calling listeners to religious worship or to war. Far away, unapprovable promises like heaven are dismissed as credit. Believers work to deserve a place in paradise, building up credit in the next world. Instead, the speaker advises them to take the cash, which can be spent immediately, a metaphor for soaking up the joys of the moment and not worrying about future judgment.
Quatrain 19. I sometimes think that never blows so red the rose as where some buried Caesar bled, that every hyacinth the garden wears drop in her lap from someone's lovely head. It thinks that the reddest rose blows where some buried Caesar bled. Hyacinths worn by the garden personified as female drop from formerly lovely heads. Caesar is a term for a Roman emperor and can be used more broadly to indicate any powerful ruler. The rose's red color represents the blood of the dead leader. Then, the second two lines of Quatrain 19 expand to the deaths of ordinary people. The dead join the natural world and its flowers in Quatrain 19. Quatrain 20. And this reviving herb whose tender green pledges the river lip on which we lean. Ah, lean upon it lightly, for who knows from what once lovely lip it springs unseen. It encourages to lean gently on the green herbs at the edge of the river. It says that no one knows about what unseen, once lovely leaf the river comes from. In this quatrain, it includes a play on words in English. The river leaf is the edge of the water, and the once lovely leaf is the mouth of a human who once lived and has become part of nature in death. The life cycle is renewed in this quatrain as plants revive and turn green in the spring. Life and death join together in the garden setting of quatrains 19 and 20. Quatrain 21. Ah, my beloved, fill the cup that clears today of past regrets and future fears. Tomorrow, why tomorrow? I may be myself with yesterday's 7,000 years. He invites his beloved to fill the cup that erases the worries about the past and future. It speculates tomorrow he will himself be a part of the past. The word beloved in this quatrain is a genderless companion. He invites his beloved to enjoy the present moment with him. Filling and drinking from the cup becomes a metaphor for indulging in life pleasures. The cup's emptiness signals the end of life itself. Then the 7,000 years quatrain 21 refer to the seven planets and imagined 1,000 years to represent each planet. Quatrain 22. For some we love the loveliest and the best that from his vintage rolling time hath pressed, have drunk their cup a round or two before, and one by one crept silently to rest. Many of the people he and his companion loved most, it says that recently they drank their own cup and gone to rest. In this quatrain, it uses the process of making wine to illustrate the constant movement of time. Rolling time personifies as wine presser who creates lives like a winemaker presses grapes. Quatrain 23. And we that now make merry in the room they left, and summer dresses in new bloom, ourselves must we beneath the couch of earth descend ourselves to make a couch for whom? He and his companions are enjoying the summer in the room the others left behind, yet they too must descend beneath the couch of earth and become a couch for others. The changing seasons described in this quatrain also depict the inevitability of time passing. Moreover, in this quatrain, it describes the unity of past and future generations. Living people are supported by the planet or couch of earth and the lip of the river. The we of this stanza refers to him and his unnamed companion or to everyone who is alive. Quatrain 24. Ah, make the most of what we yet may spend, before we too into dust descend, dust into dust, and under dust to lie. Sun's wine, sun's song, sun's singer, and sun's end. He urged his companion to make the most of life before they too descend into dust, without wine, song, singer, or end. In this quatrain, it continues the idea of life as cyclical pattern with the image of dust into dust, which recurs frequently in the poem. Humans came from dust or earth before they were born, and their bodies will return to this state when they die. The quatrain's final line includes the prospect of death as the final end. After death, humans will be sons, or French word for without, earthly pleasures, and this state of withoutness will have no end. Quatrain 71. The moving finger writes, and having writ, moves on, nor all your pity nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all your tears wash out word of it. The moving finger writes, then moves on. No prayer, argument, or tears will convince it to erase even a few words of what it has written. In this quatrain, it describes fate as written down and unchangeable. The moving finger is being used as a symbol for fate or for time. In addition, this quatrain 71 insists tough that humans can alter their features through religious devotion, intellectual argument, or even tearful entreaty. Quatrain 72. And that inverted bowl they call the sky, where under crawling coop will live and die. Lift not your hands to it for help, for it as impotently moves as you or I. There's no point reaching up to the sky to ask for help. The sky is as helpless as humans. In Quatrain 72, it says that all of nature, including the sky, is just as helpless as people are. The image of the sky as an inverted bowl restricts it to something small and infinite. Its fate is also predetermined. People often associate the cosmos with majesty, mystery, and the divine. Looking to the sky for answers can be similar to seeking an invisible creator. Quatrains 71 and 72 discuss the notion humans are helpless pawns of fate.
All in all, the poem comprises a series of rubai or four-line stanzas, each with an AABA rhymes hymn. A single speaker narrates the entire poem. Human impermanence in the search for wisdom, from quatrains 1 to 67. As the sun rises, worshippers crowd to get into a tavern. They know their time is short. The speaker names many powerful mythological leaders who have died. He emphasizes how life disappears as quickly as a bird in flight. Drops from a wine glass or leaves from a tree. Roses fade from a garden as spring and summer vanish. The speaker finds his own paradise in material pleasures like wine, song, and the company of his companion and lover. He encourages his companion to fill the cup and drink wine with him. They will turn to dust as soon as their friends have before them. Even wise men and prophets are eventually silenced by dust. Humans who planned and hope for a reward in the future will find no certainty. As the speaker seeks wisdom about his purpose in earth, he finds only one answer. He came into the world like water and will live like wind. He goes further into the heavens to seek truth, but he finds darkness, a locked door, and a veil he can't see beyond. If he could determine truth from falsehood and learn the secret of life, he might find the master, an unseen creator who controls all existence. A wine vessel tells him to drink since he can return to life once he is dead. The speaker in turn urges the person he is addressing, either the reader or his companion, to drink and forget their regrets and worries. The human body is a temporary tent for a traveler. He adds, just as life is a brief stop between long periods of darkness, each human life is small compared to the vastness of the universe. Dismissing logic, reason, and religious argument, the speaker indulges in wine. He dismisses threats of hell and hopes of paradise, since no one knows if heaven and hell are real. Instead, he believes he contains both heaven and hell within himself. Divine power, religion, and faith from quatrain 68 to 90. An all-powerful master treats human lives like shadows in a magic lantern or pieces on a game board. From the beginning of the world, the speaker imagines creators have known how the world will end. Humans, however, still don't know where they came from or where they are going. The speaker now prefers to find his wisdom drinking in the tavern rather in the temple. He rebels against the religious concept of facing punishment for sin and refuses to deny himself pleasure. As he thinks about the relationship between humans and a divine creator, he tells a story about pots or clay vessels, discussing their absent potter. The pots speak to one another during the last month of Ramadan, a month-long Islamic religious observance of fasting and prayer. The pots worry the potter has created them only to destroy them. One flawed pot wonders if he will be destroyed because the potter's own failings. Then the pots hear a porter arriving with wine, signaling the end of the Ramadan fast. That in celebration of life from quatrains 91 to 101. The speaker expresses his hopes to be buried in the garden he enjoys in life and to have his dead body washed with wine. He laments the vanishing of spring and the nightingale. He longs to change fate and shape the world he and his lover desire. As the speaker reclines in the garden, the moon looks for him and his beloved, but only one of them is there. He asks the wine pourer to turn down an empty glass on his grave.